Paris, 1941, a city shrouded in fear. The German occupation had cast a long, dark shadow over the City of Lights. Gone were the vibrant streets, the carefree laughter, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the perfume of spring blossoms. In their place lingered the stench of fear, the oppressive silence of a city holding its breath, the constant threat lurking around every corner. The once familiar landmarks now stood as silent witnesses to the occupation. The Eiffel Tower, once a symbol of hope and progress, now loomed over the city like a steel sentinel, a stark reminder of the enemy's presence. The Arc de Triomphe, once a testament to French glory, now served as a backdrop for Nazi parades, its grandeur overshadowed by the swastika banners that fluttered in the breeze. Juliette, a young woman with piercing blue eyes and a spirit as resilient as the city she loved, felt the weight of the occupation heavy on her heart. Each day was a tightrope walk, a delicate balance between survival and resistance. She longed for the day when Paris would breathe freely again, when the laughter would return to the streets, when the shadow of war would finally recede. But for now, Juliette, like her beloved city, held her breath, clinging to hope, her heart a quiet drumbeat of defiance in the suffocating silence of occupied Paris. Café Renaud had always been Juliette's sanctuary, a place where the aroma of strong coffee mingled with the comforting scent of old books. It offered a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. She found solace in the familiar creak of the wooden chairs, the soft murmur of conversations whispered in hushed tones, the gentle clinking of cups. One rainy afternoon, her gaze fell upon a man seated in a shadowy corner. He was engrossed in a newspaper, his face partially obscured by the brim of a fedora. There was an air of quiet intensity about him, a sense of purpose that drew her in. He seemed strangely familiar, yet she couldn't place him. Their eyes met briefly, a flicker of recognition passing between them. His eyes, a deep emerald green, held a mixture of caution and curiosity. He quickly averted his gaze, returning to his newspaper, but not before Juliette noticed the faintest hint of a smile playing on his lips. Intrigued, Juliette couldn't shake off the feeling that she had met this man before. Perhaps it was the way he held himself, the way his eyes seemed to take in every detail of his surroundings, or maybe it was simply the way he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Whatever it was, Juliette felt an inexplicable pull towards him, a connection that transcended the crowded café and the oppressive atmosphere of occupied Paris. Their escape had been a blur of adrenaline and fear, a whispered warning, a shared glance, and suddenly they were running, their footsteps echoing through the narrow cobblestone streets. The Germans were getting closer, their shouts growing louder with each passing moment. Leo, as the mysterious man was called, had grabbed Juliette's hand, his touch firm yet reassuring. He led her through a labyrinth of dark alleys, their pace quickening as the sound of boots pounding the pavement grew closer. They ducked into a doorway, their backs pressed against the cold stone, their breaths mingling in the darkness. "There's another way," Leo whispered urgently, his voice barely audible above the din. He pulled her towards a hidden grate, the entrance to the city's sewer system. The stench was overwhelming, a pungent mix of decay and dampness, but it offered their only chance of escape. Juliette hesitated for a moment, her stomach churning at the thought of venturing into the darkness below. But Leo's hand on her arm, his eyes urging her onward, gave her the courage to take the first step. They descended into the darkness, the clang of the grate closing behind them, a final farewell to the world above. Section 4. A promise made, a life upended. The sewers were a subterranean labyrinth, a dark and treacherous underworld beneath the bustling streets of Paris. The air was thick with the stench of mildew and decay, and the only sounds were the dripping of water and the scurrying of rats. Yet, even in this environment of darkness and despair, Juliette found a strange sense of hope. They moved swiftly through the narrow passageways, their footsteps echoing off the damp stone walls. Leo, his knowledge of the city's underbelly proving invaluable, navigated the maze with an almost instinctive ease. He led them through hidden tunnels and forgotten passageways, always one step ahead of their pursuers. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged into the cool night air. They stood for a moment, catching their breath, their bodies trembling from the exertion and the adrenaline coursing through their veins. As they looked at each other, their faces illuminated by the faint moonlight, a silent promise passed between them. Their escape had forged a bond between them, a shared experience that transcended words. As dawn approached, they went their separate ways, but not before exchanging a final, lingering look. A silent vow to find each other again when the nightmare was over. A promise whispered on the wind, carrying with it the faint scent of freedom and the lingering memory of their shared ordeal. Section 5. London's embrace, a heart unsettled. The war ended. Paris celebrated. But Juliet's victory felt incomplete. Leo was gone. She searched, her heart clinging to their promise, but he had vanished like a whisper in the wind. The years that followed were a blur of rebuilding and readjustment. Paris, slowly but surely, began to heal, its spirit reawakening from the long nightmare of occupation. But for Juliet, a part of her remained trapped in the shadows of the past. The joy of liberation was tinged with a profound sense of loss. The city held too many memories, each corner a painful reminder of what she had lost. Seeking a fresh start, she made the difficult decision to leave Paris behind. London, with its bustling energy and cosmopolitan spirit, offered her a semblance of anonymity. She found work as a translator, her fluency in languages a valuable asset in the post-war world. She built a life for herself, one filled with new experiences and acquaintances, yet the memory of Leo, their brief time together, their daring escape, continued to haunt her. His absence was a constant ache in her heart, a void that nothing seemed to fill.